down, and it was going to be a while before it come back up, and didn't look like they were going to be able to do the bulletins. I said, that's okay. Don't worry about it. If you can't do it, you can't do it. We'll survive. Daniel sent a text out a few minutes ago that they were working on it. The internet had come back up, and they were trying to get it done. They're going to be a little bit late because they run out of ink and whatever. But anyway, they're on time, and they got the bulletin. So Daniel and Trish, thank you for going the extra mile to get it done. There are several announcements in here we want to be mindful of. Got a couple of new ones on our sick list. Mary Gaddy, a friend of Martha Tisdale's, having some health issues. Dorothy Hillbridge has not been doing well this past week at all, so remember her. That's the two new ones on the list. The others have been there, and we'll go over them a little next hour. There are a number of upcoming events. I sent this list to Trish, and she's got them all in there except what I didn't send her. But one of utmost importance to us today is December the 31st. That's 2 weeks from today. Brother Derek Brown will be with us. He is going to be involved in the mission work in the Philippines that the elders have decided for us to be a part of. And he's going to be here 2 weeks from today to go over what the work is that they're going to be doing and are doing over there, and how his involvement will be. And we're looking forward to him being here. He came very highly recommended to the congregation here, and looking forward to him being here 2 weeks from today. He will have the Bible class that morning and present the morning lesson on the 31st. So I know it's a holidays and a New Year's Eve, but hopefully Christmas will be over with, and most people will be here and be able to be present for that. That was the best day for him to be here with his schedule. But they're looking forward to him being here in 2 weeks. There's other things listed there. The 13th of January, the baby shower for Liz and Stephen here at North Macon. There's a couple of ladies' day. You can read it for yourself there in the bulletin. We do have another flyer that has been sent out. We've been mentioning the silence of the scriptures over at Warner Robins. But then in February, and then they've got a list of other things that's going to be going on, some of the classes over at Warner Robins. Well, this will be posted, and we'll get them in the bulletin as it gets a little closer on those. Any other announcements we need as we get started this morning? Good to see each one. Good to have you with us this morning. Glad you came. And Daniel, would you lead us in a word of prayer as we start, please?
This day that you have given us. We're thankful for all the many blessings, grace, and your mercy. We're thankful to be here this morning to once again learn more of your word, that we may use it to better ourselves and to share it with others. May we use this word in our daily lives to always obey your word, to do as you would have us to do. Please give Harry a good recollection of the lesson he's going to bring us this morning. Please forgive us when we pray. Please forgive us for our sins. Trust when we pray.
Thank you. Over the years, there has been a word that I have used quite often and think it's very appropriate and think it's very important. And we're going to focus on that word a little bit this morning. In Proverbs 23 and verse 7, for as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Eat, drink, saith he to thee, but his heart is not with thee. For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. What does that have to deal with? And that comes back to the word that I mentioned.
On things above and not
Okay. Focus their mind on the right thing. Key word I look at is attitude, which comes in concept with what you're talking about there. Attitude. And, as Christians, as we work together in the local congregation, then certainly the attitude that each and every one of us have is of great importance in order to accomplish the things that we as a congregation are trying to accomplish. You know, we are a peculiar people, as the scriptures teach. We're set apart. We're different from the world. And certainly unity is taught throughout the scriptures. There needs to be unity among the brethren. And we need to be unified, and we need to work together. Same purpose, same cause. We are different personalities. We have different ways of accomplishing things because the uniqueness of each and every one of us. So we are different in many respects, but we are set aside. We are different for a specific purpose. And you know, a person or persons may be very, very talented. And here at North Macon, we have a number of people who have a lot of talent. And it's evident when we see the things that the various ones do. There's a lot of ability, a lot of talent. When all that talent is unified and working together, great things can be accomplished. And I certainly, in my opinion, I think this past year we've made some good strides. Have we reached our full potential? No, I would not think so. But I do believe that we have made some good strides in the right direction. And so that unity is important. The working together is important. And so we need to be striving to reach our full potential. And if we may have an abundance of talent, but if we have the wrong attitudes, then we're not going to reach our potential. If there's division, animosity, it's going to hinder our efforts. It's going to hinder the work. So attitude is of great importance. And so, you know, when we consider attitude, one thing to consider is, first of all, what is our attitude toward God? Do we have the proper reverence, respect, awe, if you will, of God? Do we love God as we should? Do we have a faith and a trust in God? Are we grateful? Are we thankful? So attitude is so important. What is our attitude toward God? But for our thought this morning, what is our attitude toward ourselves as individuals? Attitude is so vital, so important. What is our attitude toward our brethren? You know, as we were just mentioning, you know, there's several areas that it's important for us to have the right attitude in order for us to be successful in the things that we're trying to accomplish. And first of all is our attitude toward ourselves. What do we think of ourselves? Again, that's a personal question. Everyone may have a different answer. What is our attitude toward ourselves? Do we underestimate ourselves? Do we overestimate ourselves? Do we sometimes feel that we're superior to the next person? Or maybe inferior to the next person? Again, it's a personal question. You know, what is our attitude toward ourselves? You know, Matthew chapter 5 and verse 5 really tells us a lot about, and of course you're familiar with this, of course, tells us a lot about the type of attitude, you know, that we should have. It talks about being meek. You know, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. The meek. Blessed are the meek. What is our attitude toward ourselves? You know, are we meek? Or do we have the proper concept of who we are and what we're about? You know, in Ephesians chapter 4, verses 1 through 3, Paul said, I therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beseech you that you walk worthy of the vocation wherewith you are called, with all lowliness and meekness, with long suffering, forbearing one another in love, endeavoring to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. You know, walk worthy of the calling of the vocation where you are called, with lowliness and meekness and long suffering. You know, what does it mean by that? Lowliness and meekness and long suffering. Yeah. Humility, gentleness, and patience. Let's look at humility. How does that apply when we are looking at ourselves, when we are looking at our attitude toward ourselves? How does that humility apply?
In the way we value ourselves and others, and in the way we serve others.
Yes. Yes. In the way we value ourselves, very important. We've got to have a proper evaluation of ourselves. Don't overestimate our value. Don't underestimate our value. And how do we view others? You know, whenever we sometimes consider ourselves, and you know, we talk about, you know, meekness, gentleness. Whenever we compare ourselves maybe to others, how do we make that comparison? For example, do we sometimes hold to the idea, well, that individual, as he leads singing or he leads a prayer or whatever, that individual is much more capable than I am? And that person may have more talent, or he may not. But are we sincere? Are we doing our best? Are we genuine in our service? You know, we're not all the same when it comes to our abilities. But we can be the same when it comes to our sincerity, to our dedication, our commitment. So, how do we view ourselves as we deal with our life and our service as a Christian? You know, with long suffering, gentleness. Have you ever perhaps embarrassed yourself in your service to the Lord, maybe during worship service or maybe during some other activity you may be involved with? Maybe we've made a mistake. Maybe we said something that was incorrect, not intentionally, of course, but maybe we were mistaken. Maybe the song leaders made a mistake and they're leading their singing. You ain't never done that, have you, Jimmy? Nope, absolutely not. It happens. Mistakes happen. And when we make a mistake, how does it make us feel? We're human. We make a mistake. That's okay. It happens. Let's not allow that to get us down, to make us feel inferior. So what? We made a mistake. You tried. The biggest mistake we can make is the mistake of not doing anything. Absolutely. Absolutely, it can. So, you make a mistake, it shows you're human. And I certainly make my share of them. We all know that. But it's okay. We're doing the best we can. We're trying. We're striving. We're trying to do what we need to do. But what about when the next person, one of our brethren, he or she makes a mistake? What is their view toward them? Absolutely. They make mistakes just like we do.
They like to preach.
Yeah, we all make mistakes. Now, someone makes a mistake. We certainly don't want to belittle them because of a mistake they made. We don't want to discourage them because of a mistake. Lift one another up, encourage one another. Andrew, you're exactly right. Yeah, I've seen that 2 or 3 times over the years. Now, typically speaking, and not always the case, but typically speaking, when you have the emblems up on the table, who generally, not always, generally speaking, who is the person or persons that fills those emblems? Most time it's the ladies. I can't believe some of you ladies made a mistake. Happens, don't it? Human, that's right, it happens. I haven't seen that happen often. I have seen it 2 or 3 times over the years. Someone simply forgot to prepare it. That happens. The intent was there. So when that happens, the person that was responsible for making that preparation, the person, chances are, is sitting in the auditorium, and that person probably feels about this tall right now. Oh no, I forgot it. No need to make that person feel bad about it. It happens. Exactly. It happens. So, encourage one another. Unity. Recognize that we all have our strengths. We all have our weaknesses. And we can build upon that with one another.
We should do the same to others.
That's exactly right. In Philippians 2, Philippians 2, 1 through 4. If there be therefore any consolation in Christ, if any comfort of love, if any fellowship of the Spirit, if any bowels and mercies, fulfill ye my joy, that ye may be like-minded, having the same love, being of one accord, of one mind. Let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind let each esteem our others better than themselves. Look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others. So this goes along exactly with what we're talking about. Look at the strengths and the qualities that others have. Recognize that we are not the only ones that has abilities and talents, but others have abilities and talents too. And it talks about in Philippians 2, 1 through 4, talks about, having the same mind. Look at others. Look how well you do this. Why do you suppose there are those within any congregation who, when it comes time to, for example, leading the opening prayer or the closing prayer. This individual may, well, I'd rather not. Why do you suppose that is?
Lack of knowledge and confidence.
There could be.
We're looking at the attitude. Maybe you feel like they're not in the right mind to do it at that time.
That could well be.
Another reason they're not prepared to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe another reason. Or they're shy.
Could be. It could be, you're right. That could be any number of reasons. That doesn't mean that that person is less capable. Maybe that person lacks confidence, experience, having not done it previously or often. You know, it doesn't mean that person is less important. And that's you using prayer as an example. It could be leading, singing, or whatever. It could be any number of things. It doesn't mean that that person's not equally as important, equally as valuable, because he or she is. Practice is a great teacher. And being shy, you use the term shy, that very well could be. Person may be shy. There's nothing wrong with that. And may be afraid, well, I might make a mistake. Doesn't want to embarrass him or herself in whatever it is they may be doing. There could be a number of factors. But how can we help these individuals in whatever area it may be to overcome their shyness, their inadequate feelings, or whatever? How can we help them to overcome that and reach their full potential? Training is very important, yes.
No matter what they do, we encourage them.
Absolutely. Encouragement, training.
Being a good example of what you want them to learn.
Yeah. Be an example.
Also through prayer, even if he's willing, he can pray for himself as the church pray for him. It makes a big difference.
Yeah. Oh, that's correct.
Then too, if you share your personal experience where you started, right where they're at, and what you've gone through and the mistakes you've made, they can see that we're human and we do our best to improve ourselves, not to be perfect, but to improve.
There are individuals over the years that I have seen at the time of their conversion. Those individuals would be hesitant to do certain things because lack of training, lack of experience, they haven't done it, maybe being shy, maybe the fear, well, I may say something wrong, I may make a mistake or whatever the scenario may be. Those individuals, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it because it's not, they're not comfortable in doing various things. It's a growing process. And some of these same individuals over the years, I have seen grow to the point that they would become involved more and more in doing different things. It's a growing process. It doesn't just happen overnight. It's a growing process. Training is very important. Willingness to participate and do it is very important. Even if we make a mistake. How many of us, the first time we ever tried to do something, whatever it may have been, we made mistakes doing it? How many of you remember the first time you rode a bicycle? Did you fall? Chances are you may have, unless somebody was there to hold you up. That's okay. We make mistakes, we stumble, we get up and we go on. It's a growing process, a maturing process. But look at others and realize their abilities. And the latter part of it talks about here in Ephesians 4, of Philippians 2, 1 through 4, is talking about long suffering, you know, forbearing, or Ephesians 4:1-3 rather, talked about forbearing one another, love, long suffering, look at others, build them up. But then again, in Philippians, it talked about have the right attitude in whatever it is we're doing. Don't have the attitude, well, I'm a better song leader than Jimmy is. I can do better than he can. Or the next person. Don't look at ourselves as being better than the next person. Because that person may be doing the very best that he or she can in whatever they're doing. Encourage one another. Build them up, as Andrew was talking about earlier. Encourage one another. But now, whenever we look at ourselves, who do we see? We look at the next person, who do we see? But now let's ask a very important question. And think about this. When God looks at you and I, what does God see?
If you got a willing heart, serve Him and serve Him in the right respect, He gonna, you doing the right thing. But for doing it for outdo another brother, that ain't good.
That's true.
If your heart set on God's commandment and doing His will, that's perfect.
Notice Romans 12:3. Romans 12 and verse 3. For I say, through the grace given unto me, every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think. That's what we've been talking about. But notice this. But to think soberly, according as God hath dealt to every man the measure of faith. And verse 4 talks about, for we have many members in one body, and all members don't have the same office. We all have different abilities, different talents. We can do different things. There are people like Reggie and Jimmy that can lead singing and do a good job. There's people who do a good job in leading of prayers. Good job in teaching, whatever, the different aspects, whatever it may be. The next person may not have that same talent to that extent, but whatever our talents are we using them to bring glory to God to the best of our ability? Jimmy used the illustration a while ago about the emblems being left out of the communion trays. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to put the emblems out. But when it's not done, you know it. It's an important work. Very vital work. The different things that are done, a lot of you may call them the behind the scenes things, if you will. They're just as important as those who get the recognition for the various things they do. So whatever our abilities are, whatever our talents are, use them. They are important. And use them to bring glory and honor to God. And don't think more highly of ourselves than we ought, but to look at each person for what he or she is capable of doing. Now, sometimes the most important things, or equally important, are things that go unnoticed, that a person is rarely or never recognized for, done quietly. People don't even know. There's things that different ones of you do that others don't even know about. Those things are important. And you deserve credit for that. But we're not to do things for the recognition, but for our attitude of service. Now, bringing glory and honor to God. Then notice verse 16 of Romans 3. Romans 12, rather. Verse 16. Be of the same mind one toward another. Mind not high things, but condescend to men of low estate. Be not wise in your own conceits. Same idea. Don't think more highly of yourself than we ought to. Recognize that everybody is important. Everybody has their talents, their abilities. Don't think about how great I am. It reminds me of what that Mac Davis song. It's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way. Let's not have that attitude. Because how many of us are perfect in every way? We all have our fallacies, don't we? Zero. That's right, zero. We all have our shortcomings, but we also all have our strengths. There's not a person here that doesn't have talent. And truth be known, probably everyone here has abilities and talents that he or she do not realize that they have. Things that we're capable of doing that we don't realize we can do. I'm not sure what the numbers are, but I've heard over the years that an individual only uses a portion, a percentage of their mind with the abilities they have. I don't know what those numbers are. But the point was, all can do more than we realize that we can do. We all have ability. We all have talent. A humble estimation of ourselves does not mean that we are to be so humble and meek that we underestimate ourselves. Don't underestimate what we can do. Because we might be surprised to find out what all we are able to do. James chapter 4 gives us a good lesson in this. In James chapter 4, we consider our service to the Lord. In James 4 and verse 10, humble yourself in the sight of the Lord, and he shall lift you up. Humble yourself. Right attitude. We are, of course, aware of the account of those who will do service, whatever it might be, for recognition, to be seen of others. Those who may pray loudly, boldly, longevity, and nothing wrong with any of those if it's the right reason and the right attitude. But what about the publican and the tax collector? The publican wanted to be seen of men. What about the tax collector? That humility, the humbleness. It's the attitude we ought to have. That's true. That's exactly right. Good point. Exalt yourself. What does that mean, exalt yourself?
Put yourself above everybody else.
Yeah. And that's that attitude. You know. Do the very best we can, whatever we're doing. But do it with the right attitude, the right focus. Don't consider ourselves, more superior than the next person. Now, one of those attitudes comes, I'm going to use an example here, is if a person has the wrong attitude, that person may have the attitude, I know that this needs to be done, but I'm not the person for that. Let someone else do it. And I say that because that person might have the attitude, I'm better than that. I'm not going to pick no trash up off the floor because I may have to bend down. I might get my fingers dirty. Well, that's not my job to do that. That's the deacon's job. We see something needs to be done. Whose job is it? It's our job. Not necessarily the next person. That's our job. Yeah. Go the extra mile. Go above and beyond. Don't think that we're too good to do something. In John 13, what did Jesus do? There we are. He washed the disciples' feet.
God created us in His image, and we are supposed to be like Him. Then we will be humble and treat our brethren the way we should.
Very true. Very true. Jesus washed the disciples' feet. How many of us would be willing to do that? If I were to take my shoes and my socks off now, who's going to be the first one up here to wash my feet? What was that? I wouldn't count on it. I wouldn't count on it. and there's the point right there. Jesus washed their feet. Most of us, many of us, would not want to do that. True.
And if when you do that, nothing matters. Nothing that you couldn't do in the sight of God. It ain't so much as picking up that piece of paper just cause, hey, would God looking down on you too. You got to be an example of Him in every way.
True.
So, that's who we have to be.
Very true. Whatever needs to be done, let's do it, and do it with the right attitude.
Been time on my job, I've been told to do the mechanic work. And I seen guys say, I ain't gonna do that, that's for the mechanic. But see, once you go ahead and do it, without having been told, that made the job flow even better.
Absolutely.
And being an example of Christ, that's what people notice.
It makes it better for you and for everybody else.
Right, but they'll say, it's something about you, you know what it's about. They got to tell you, you doing it for Christ, you know what I mean?
That's exactly right.
And the other thing is that when Jesus did this example of humility, he was about to tell all them that he knew he was going to be betrayed.
Mm-hmm.
Yet he still served every one of them, including the one that would betray him. He had that knowledge as he did it, that he was going to be betrayed.
Good point. That's exactly right. Okay, our time is about up, but this week and again next week we're going to be focusing on our attitude that we as Christians and a congregation need. 2 weeks from today, Derek will be with us. Then after the first year, I want to start a series on some of the parables of Christ. But we'll stop there and we'll pick up in just a few moments with the next session.